welcome to Roll Coverage, home of the press conference breakdown. I am your host, Nick. Hopefully you are ready for a Dave Canales breakdown because that's what you're getting today. And there is some nuggets. You better be ready for this one. So let's go.
Hey, I thought it was all over.
Nope. They Roll Coverage.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
A great day. I say that a lot. It was a great day. It was about half and half with scripted periods, and then the second half of it was just football. It was some good in the field drives. We got into some third down to fourth down, go for it. We had a 2-minute all plays that the intent right now is to just continue to increase the volume of play to play snaps for the guys, especially for the offensive line who stays out there for the whole drive. You're rotating kind of the other groups, but it was great work. I mean, just I could feel it for sure. Just after the practice, I was like a little bit punchy because it's just one drive after the next, but just working the different scenarios. We all need it. The players need to hear it so they can kind of expect what's coming. The coaches need it, so we're in communication. Like, what have we called? What do we need to get to? All those things working at full tilt today. So it was a fantastic day, and the guys really responded well.
Okay. I hope you guys have been following because the last Dave Canales press conference, I said that his body language was a little weird. He was like pushing his shoulders back. He seemed very standoffish. This is more of the Dave Canales that we're used to. With that shoulder thing, I understand it may look subtle to you guys, but I've done a breakdown of every single Dave Canales press conference, literally from start to finish. In fact, I did one when he was on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I've been watching what this dude has been doing, okay? That little just letting the shoulders come out and letting it come to him, that is something that I like to see. Because my concern before was, man, there's something that Dave is hiding. There's something that he's worried about that he's not telling us, the fans. Of course, scheme and everything still needs to stay behind the scenes, but there was something that was odd, I'll say. Hey, hopefully he figured it out because this looks like a completely different guy from yesterday. So I'm excited. I don't even care. I barely heard what he said. I was looking at body language. But this is completely different than what we had yesterday. So bravo, Dave.
It seemed like the offense was extremely high energy today.
Yeah.
Anything you said to them beforehand or what you saw observed out there?
Really, I just challenge both sides. I don't question the work ethic of this group. I don't question the focus, the intentionality. This is a very professional group. And just for me, it's like as we play these games, the energy, the juice has to come from you. It has to come from us celebrating each other. As we travel around, you don't count on the fans in the stadium. You're in a visiting stadium to create the energy that we need for each other. But we always have each other, whether we're home or away. We always have each other. And so that was my challenge, and they responded. Again, like we've been saying, every challenge that I've brought up to the group, they've responded positively. And so this was just another, football's supposed to be fun, boys. It's such a good time. Look what we get to do. We had a perfect day. It was like in the, mid-low 70s with a breeze. I mean, I felt like I'm back home in Carson, California for a little bit. It was unbelievable, the whole thing, So just wanting to feel it and really cherish these moments together.
That is awesome. I really like that he is building the camaraderie. Again, I like that he is a player's coach. There's so much that he can build here. Again, we're going to go back to what I've said the entire time. Is David Tepper going to give him enough time to do it? That is really the concern. And does he put enough on tape this year as a head coach with this offense, with the improvements, with the draft and everything going offensively? Does it improve enough that Dave says, you know what, let's at least go into year 2 and figure this out? I mean, I really hope so. Genuinely, I really hope so. But in the same breath, I can see a scenario where David Tepper tosses the baby out with the bathwater, Bryce as a third OC and a third head coach, fourth or something like that if you're really counting. And yeah, it just spirals from there. And I think that would obviously destroy Bryce's career if he has an opportunity or if he doesn't get an opportunity to go someplace else. So yeah, this is a Tepper year, man. Dave put good enough stuff on film just why Tepper doesn't have a choice. He has to keep it. That's what we want. Let's build. Let's build 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. I don't care. If we're building for 10 years, hopefully we got a dynasty by then. And if that's the case, I will wait another decade. But hey, Tepper is going to be that 10-game leash, not 10-year leash.
Run game seemed to be particularly successful today. What does Damian Lewis bring in that aspect of running the ball?
Yeah, that's what he does. That's why D-Lou's here. You know, it's to bring that power. You talk about energy, right? He comes off the ball with a purpose. And so when he's in there, it does elevate the whole group, you know, and you have guys that way that really impact the different units that we have.
Again, if you watched my video where we went over some of the Bucs comments, one of the things that you'll know is that they run a lot of mid-zone runs, which makes sense on why we went out in free agency and got 2 great guards in Hunt and Damian. I mean, we're going to be running behind those guards on the regular because we can't rely on Icky and we can't rely on Moten. That's why we're going with the guards. That's why we're going to run mid-zone, probably more than anybody. I've said the Dave Canales offense needs a stout run game. And hey, he's able to accomplish that today. Kudos, Dave. Hell yeah.
Adam on a vet day or?
Yeah, Adam, we just, for Adam, you know, it's like we had a great day for him yesterday. He's running around, you know, we just wanted to, this was kind of in the works, planned all along. And so we took advantage of that day. He'll be back out there rolling tomorrow.
Same with Moten.
Yes. So and he started off the practice, and then it was the same deal. Now he was scheduled to really, you know, have this day to recover, and he decided he wanted to get a little bit of work in, and then we just tailored him off as we got into team periods.
Dave, last week you said that you would like, if it all worked out, an opportunity to get your guys, first and second teamers, to go through the pregame routine or game day routine.
Yeah.
Is that still in the back of your mind?
Yes, I would love to. Again, well, this was like really the 2 high practices back to back. So we have to talk. I'll talk with Dan, and I'll talk with Andrew Altoff, who's our performance director, and we'll all get our heads together and say, how does this group look going into another practice, a walkthrough, and then the game? How do we feel about this group going in and doing it? And so it feels pretty good right now, but I want to make sure we do our due diligence and talk about the group as a whole before we make that decision.
Okay, I could see that. Do we see a scenario where we don't release active roster until the very last second? Or is this something where he's just going to put Bryce, Dalton, all these guys out there, force them to go through the basics, but just know, like, you're going to suit up, you're going to do everything like that, but you ain't going to be in the game? Just as like a dress rehearsal, like he said. I guess I would have much rather seen them play at least a series in the preseason. But again, I understand the other side, the J.J. McCarthy side. So, again, I see both sides of it. I'm just worried that it's a bit too late. And that week 1 is going to be the wrong time for us to really be trotting out our 1s and 2s. So
Use Brady basically everywhere.
Yeah.
What's the luxury in having a guy who could be kind of a true 6th man to the offensive line?
Yeah, it's a blessing for us, you know, to be able to, as different guys have kind of missed a little bit of time in different positions, to be able to see him. The flip side of it is, what I would love is to just let Brady settle in, you know, to a couple spots instead of having the ability to play all 5. Doesn't mean you really necessarily should, because there's reps, there's time on task, and so as we go forward, really honing in on our group and saying, okay, where does Brady help us most?
Which spots would those be that you'd like to see him settle in on?
I'd really like to see him just like guard and tackle, you know, and if you could, it's like play on one side, you know, because it changes when you start flipping sides, you know, but the fact that he can do it is a huge blessing for us, and has been this camp.
When you see a guy,
we see a scenario where Brady is needing to fill in for Moten or Icky, and that's why he's our 6th man. Okay. I mean, I don't love it, but I don't hate it.
Obviously, in this league, if you're like a swing tackle or like a swing guard, you want guys to be able to play both sides. But when you see a guy who's particularly good on one side and struggling on another, how do you handle that? And how much do you weigh that when you're making roster decisions of who will be up?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. All guys have a dominant side. They all do. And so the guys who can swing one side to the next, you know, they're typically working on a side sometimes they're not most comfortable with. And at times, you know, I've seen over the years where, you know, when your starting unit gets a little bit messed up, can the starter flip better than, say, your third tackle? And we've done that in the past in different places, you know, in Seattle a couple different times.
Hey, Coach, regarding the fringe players, On defense, what does T.J. Smith and Michael Barrett have to show on Saturday?
Really, it's not hinging on one game. It's the full camp body. They've both done a great job. Michael Barrett has done everything we've asked of him. His college career certainly speaks for itself. This is a really good football player. That's why he's here. T.J. Smith has shown some versatility, and he's been really useful for us. He's showed it in practice. He showed it in games. He adds a little element of pass rush in the interior. So two guys that have really, made a statement for themselves for us here.
Interesting, because obviously we drafted Michael Barrett. I believe he was our 7th round pick. I think he probably makes the roster. If not, he's a practice squad pickup. I don't think another team's really going to go after him. He does show some flashes, but probably not enough to make another team's 53. If not, I could see him being a development piece down the road and maybe being brought into camp next year. Hey, stay focused, all this other stuff, improve, and we'll hit you up next year kind of thing. Obviously, that would be sad for him, but if that's the case, I think he could make the roster next year. There just needs to be some development there. And yeah, they're obviously fringe players for a reason. I still hope the best for them. I wish they could all make the roster.
Dave, this is going to be the first time that you're going to be kind of overseeing, I know it's a conversation, these final roster cuts.
Yeah.
How tough are you finding some of those decisions?
Yeah, it's hard. I'm excited for it, and I think that when you respect and regard the whole unit, and you're kind of bringing everybody up at the same time with the teaching, with the practices, the drill work, and all those things, as we improve everyone, it makes the decisions harder and harder. So I'm really excited about doing this with Dan, with Brant, with the coaching staff, to be able to as we've had our kind of like touch points throughout camp, to evaluate where we're at right now, and then we'll have that culmination, after we get through this last game.
So one of the things I want to tell you, if you are a Dave Canales fan or you're a Carolina Panthers fan, there's 2 things that I always want you to watch when Dave Canales does press conferences, okay? One of which is going to be where his eyes looking. If he's constantly going like this, and I mean to the point where you're literally have a thing in the back of your mind, you're like, what's going on? That's him trying to figure out good things to say, or maybe a possible way to answer that question. That's normally a red flag for me. And again, the body language, he just seems more loose, kind of more ready to handle stuff. Obviously hilarious face on the screen, but other than his vitamin deficiency, which is just his incessant licking of his lips, we just need to get him some gum or Gatorade before his press conference. He's doing well. This is one of his better press conferences. So far, I'm sitting at a B+. He's delivering everything like that. We're obviously getting into this last week before cutdowns. Cutdowns are August 27th. That's when the 53 needs to be submitted. So there's a lot of guys that really need to, maybe improve just a little bit. But like you said, one outshining game is not going to overshadow a poor camp or a poor mini camp or anything like that. It's your total body of work that's going to get them these roster spots. The wide receiver and the secondary is really where I'm looking at. So August 27th, as soon as it comes out, I'm going to be looking for those names just as quickly as I can.
What about what you saw in Trevin Wallace before the draft has sort of translated onto the field?
Yeah, speed sideline to sideline. Definitely seeing that. Even in the first preseason game, there was a long reception on the left sideline, on the Patriots sideline, and Trevin, ran it down, knocked the guy out at the 3-yard line. What a huge play. I've seen over the years where if you can just give us one more shot, we got a chance to get the ball back, knock the ball out on a run play, stop them on 3 downs, interceptions, different things like that can happen inside the 5 if you just give us one more chance. That's where the strain and effort and the finish really comes in, and that's an example of who he is.
And see, that's the things that his draft profile was and why I'm a little hesitant on him. Everything they talk about when they talk about Trevin Wallace is athleticism. They don't talk about how he diagnoses the play. They don't talk about how he hits the right gaps. They don't do any of that. They talk about his speed and, again, his athleticism. That needs to be slowly turned into more of using this up here, because then that athleticism can really shine. And that's the thing. He has the intangibles. He has speed. He has that stuff, but he doesn't have the diagnosing of the play, understanding what's happening and being in the right place at the right time. That's literally what every draft profile talks about. So while he looks good in a preseason game and stuff like that, is how is he going to look over a 17-game season? And most likely he's linebacker, 3, 4. So he's not going to get as much playing time, but depending on how our injury bug continues to bite, he might actually be playing a decent or a large amount of snaps.
How did Terrace respond to your talk with him following the Jets practice?
Oh, he was great. You know, I told him I love seeing the edge. You can still have an edge without the disrespect, you know, and that's really just talking about like take your attention to our guys, celebrate with our teammates, with us, you know, and that's what I talked to the group about before the practice was, hey, we are not going to disrespect the Jets. We are not going to fight. We're not going to do these things. We are going to celebrate with each other. We're going to recognize good Panthers football, and we're going to get excited about that. And so that was just a follow-up on that, you know, and he was great. He was great about it, you know, and he responded well, you know, he understood, you know, he was kind of in his emotions right there, and he came back and finished, had another touchdown on the other side, spun the ball on the ground, and went and found his guys like, there, that's us. That's how we do it. So he responded great.
Okay, the first thing I'm going to do when this is done is I'm going to clip that moment right there, because this is how Dave Canales does press conferences. This is how he handles things. He's open. He's, joyful. He seems to like not command a room, but he's basically got everybody, you know, kind of between his fingers going like this, like, hey, everybody's in here and listening to my every word. He has a great leadership quality about him. This is what we're looking for. Not that like standoffish, angry guy that we got last time. And again, was he overtly angry? No. But I've seen enough of these press conferences to know when something is bothering somebody. And this looks like I said at the beginning, completely different person. So if this is the guy that we can get for 17 games instead of the guy that is constantly beat down by Tepper like we saw last year with Reich, I hope that Dave is able to avoid that and is able to avoid the ire of David Tepper moving forwards.
Performance since then over the past several days?
Fantastic, consistent. Every day there's a big play Terrace Marshall's a part of, you know, screaming across the field, a vertical outside, just different ways that he's really shown us the ability and really the growth that he's had, you know, over the last couple of years.
When it comes to a guy like Terrace, who's been here, do you just evaluate what you've seen in preseason games this year and camp this year, or do you look at tape from previous seasons?
Yeah, it's the whole thing, right? Because I have to catch up on his history, and that's what I spent a lot of time in January was evaluating the roster as it stood and watching the guys that have put things on film for us, and really saying, okay, who do we have right now? Where are they at? And then what's their next step? And it's Rob Moore creating a plan for each guy. What's the next step for this guy? Whether it's a veteran, you know, like Thielen or Deontay, you know, all the way through the whole depth chart really is what is this player's next step? And that's what we ask. We're a developmentally minded coaching staff, and our whole goal is to just help all of these guys take the next step in their career with things that can improve upon.
See, and that is my big thing with David Moore. David Moore is a guy that Dave Canales has known for a long time, and the only reason why he's still on this roster is because Dave knows him and he's his friend, his boy, whatever you want to say. They may not be super intimately best friends, but the fact that he has a rapport with him helps out a lot, and that means that David Moore knows the system that Dave Canales is in search for, or is trying to establish. Obviously, he said it's been installed for about 14 days, for about 2 weeks. So they've obviously been going over quite a bit, and David Moore knows, hopefully, a lot about system. But I would rather develop a guy like TMJ or a guy like even ISM. I understand he was with KC and stuff like that, but he's been with us for 2 years. Or even a new guy like Jalen Coker. Then get just some guy who just happens to know this new arbitrary system well. I'd rather have a guy that we build for the long term, and David Moore is never going to be our wide receiver 1, 2, or 3. And somebody looks at that wide receiver core and goes, oh, they have a good wide receiver group. They won't. David Moore being a part of that equation is that problem. If he's a wide receiver 6, sure, I guess. But again, that's taking a spot away from a Panther, and I don't agree with that. Maybe it's just me.
I apologize if you've addressed this, but I heard you reference yesterday that the install had been in now for a few weeks.
Yeah.
You were crafting the plan for camp.
Yeah.
What was the thought behind when you wanted to have that done and what it allows you to do?
It's pretty consistent the way that we've done it for a number of years. This probably goes back 10 years where we said, let's have the installs give them a look at what our core of our offense and defense is. Let's let them see that, know the words, because again, the best way for us to evaluate our players is if they're playing fast. The only way for players to play fast is if they know what they're doing.
This is the Dave. This is the Dave that's just immediately, he knows what he's going to say. He knows what he says because he believes it. So this is the Dave that I constantly look for in press conferences. Not that Dave that looks down, not that Dave that's just kind of like looking off or just kind of eyes darting everywhere. No, Dave that actually gives us that full in-depth answer in a way that not only helps us, but informs us about what's going on with the team, because any information is help for me, my guy, and I'll take it.
Doing. So if we can keep those installs tight, it allows them to show us their ability. Then after that first wave of camp, then we start getting into, like we talked about yesterday, is here's how we can represent this play with a new personnel, a new formation. It could be empty. It could be multiple players in the backfield, different ways to get the same concepts. And that's really how you get good at things, is as we find who we are, we take those things and we just present them differently week in and week out.
Dave, when you guys bring people in short notice, like the offensive lineman last week, the corners this week, how involved do you get with kind of catching guys up, or is that strictly position coach?
Oh, that's position coach, because we're talking about like above and beyond just the availability of what I'm able to do, you know. And the good part is we have our assistant coaches, and then we have also our quality control coaches who can kind of help, you know, so that nobody gets left behind. And it's just like, okay, well, this guy needs a little bit extra work here or there to be able to bring them up to speed, especially if they show up the day before a game, you know.
Even thinking back to last year when you were in Tampa, were there times when guys came in short notice and kind of had to play a role quick? What do you remember about working guys through that adjustment?
I can't remember too much as far as Tampa goes. You know, it was such a quick year as far as bringing guys in to help you right away. We were fortunate. We had a pretty young, strong team, so we were fortunate to have guys available for the most part. But we've been in situations like this before, particularly in camp, where you get something that might be like a 7 or 10 day injury and you just missed the preseason game. You need people, you know. So, and I just, like, honestly, we've found players that have come in and done a great job of absorbing the information for the game plan. It tells you something about them, about their ability, because really, when you get into the season, although our plays don't change drastically, there are a few wrinkles, you know, so the guys that can like reset their brains week to week, that's valuable.
Yeah, I would agree. And of course, those guys are diamonds in the rough. You know, they'll make a roster, but unfortunately, they most of the time never bubble to the top, unfortunately. You know, we don't hear of guys a whole lot barely making the team, you know, wide receiver 6, and then all of a sudden he's wide receiver 1 a few years later. You know, it's normally those guys that show you those initial flashes. So a lot of these guys that he's looking for now are going to not be wide receivers, not be running backs, DBs, cornerbacks. They're going to be working with special teams. They're going to be helping out in any way they can to make this roster better. And that's what we need now, is versatility. Strong, agile, and of course able to handle the rigors of an NFL season. 17 games plus a playoff. Of course, we're not going to be in the playoffs this year, but still 17 games. And of course, you don't want your guys to just limp across the sidelines. You want them to still be healthy at the end of the year, so this way they can enjoy their off time with their families and get rebooted and ready for the next season. So obviously, I'm super pumped for the future of this.
One more question. Hey, Coach, Sheeran got a few touches today.
Yeah.
Number one, why him over Johnson, and could we see him at flanker?
Not a flanker. He did a great job today. Fresh legs. Yeah, he's fresh legs. You know, he'd been away from us for, you know, a couple of days. We got him back, and he knows the plays, so he understands what we're trying to get done, and he did a great job today. So we're looking forward to seeing him, too, on Saturday.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Dave. Thank you to the Carolina Panthers for putting this press conference out. I literally was able to start recording this an hour after it was posted. I was enjoying a beautiful shower after going to the dog park and getting slung through mud with my dogs. But now I'm here. Now I'm enjoying this, and I'm glad I did. Dave Canales looks like he is back at the top of the mountain. I haven't seen him this happy in at least 2 press conferences. But if you want to check out more of these press conferences to see how Dave changes press conference to press conference, or from when he was a Buck, when I thought he would be our coach then, December 9th, 2023. to now. He's made such a colossal jump forwards, and I'm super excited for the future. That's why I'm going to continue to do breakdowns right here on Roll Coverage, home of the press conference breakdown. My name is Nick. Enjoy the rest of the day. Peace.